Damn. So close, but oh, so far away. We'll talk about it. The Denver Broncos blow one. I don't know if they can get it back. And by the way, a surprise Pro Bowl announcement that I'm sure everybody around these parts are going to be pleased with. All right, fellas, we're going to get right into it, man. But before we do, the elephant in the room is 4th and 1, right? I mean, do we have a consensus on that? 4th and 1, we're going to get into it with as well as other things as well, because it wasn't just that play that we'll break down. But, of course, the Denver Broncos blow what I thought was the best opportunity in a decade to get to the Super Bowl. Will it be another decade before we have this conversation again? We'll talk about that as well. But I tell you what, before we break it down, let's hear what the head coach, Sean Payton, had to say about it.
Now, specifically to the 4th down call, I don't know which is the greater regret. The decision, certainly the play call. Back in the good old days, you used to be able to get a measurement. All right? And there was something about a measurement that did two things. I knew he was short, and when you look at the film, he was actually a little shorter than they marked it. But it also buys you time to think of the call you want. So we used the timeout, and I think probably what irks me more is the call more than the decision. It's still early in the game now, and we knew there was going to be flurries. Well, we have a new field for flurries here, or what can change at the basin of a mountain. But that, there are those moments where, that you wish you had back.
Okay, now that's Sean Payton's explanation for the 4th down. And for those who don't know or aren't completely familiar with what we're talking about, the Denver Broncos up 7-0 in the second quarter in that AFC Championship game, driving down deep into New England territory, and decided on 4th and 1. In fact, I think it was 4th and perhaps even inside of 1 to go for it. Most people, I shouldn't say most, but many folks say the right play or the right decision would have been to take the points and kick the field goal. Of course, Sean Payton, known for being an aggressive offensive play caller, did not do that. And so you can hear him sort of a bit of a stream of consciousness trying to, kind of explain in his, in real time exactly why he did it, and expressing some regret to some degree, I think. I heard a little bit of a regret expressed there of, if not the play call, then certainly the decision to go for the 1st down to begin with. I thought it was a horrific decision because at the time I remember yelling at the television, this may be the last score opportunity of the game. There may not be another point scored in this game. And not only that, here's the part, guys, that I think I struggle with most. It's not 4th and goal from the 1. It's 4th and 1 from outside the 15-yard line. There's no guarantee you score a touchdown, even if you get the 1st down.
Might have been 10-0 anyway.
That's exactly right. And you got your backup quarterback in there. And your defense is standing on their head. I've heard that term used before. Am I using that right?
No, only because it's related to hockey goalies.
Yes.
File around in there like, oh, Patrick Waugh is standing on his head. Scott Wedgwood is standing on his head.
Because of great defense.
But because sometimes they're flying around off their skates and are literally on their head. If you're on your head too much, and Chad, you can speak to this as a former Pro Bowl defensive player. If the defense is on their head too much, it's not going to be a good day for you. But I think we both get where you're coming from.
I think your analogy is okay there, CJ. So go ahead and finish up, my friend.
That's all I was looking for.
He'll allow it.
There you go. But again, defense balling out. I think the Patriots at that point had 12 yards total offense, and a 2-score game is probably, I'm thinking, all you need. And I know the weather came in and was a factor there as well, even making the point even greater. But that aside, it wasn't going to be a game where, either team was going to get to 20. You kind of felt that wasn't going to be the case. I don't know. That was my position on it. I thought it was a monumental mistake, again, because there's no guarantee what happens thereafter. And as it turned out, it was the difference in the game. I want to hear Chad, I want to hear what you have to say about it, man, because you're a defensive guy. I would imagine you're saying, hey, man, give me a 2-score game at that point. The flow of the balance of the game, I think, changes at that point.
I think you take the points. So the lens to which I view life is obviously from a linebacker lens. So I think about the defense. And so what can I do to give my defense the best chances for success? Take the points, get the field goal. Then considering how well, as you pointed out, CJ, the Broncos defense was playing, the odds of the Patriots being able to score more than a touchdown in this game just seemed incredibly slim. So there's that. There's this new era of football that we are in where going forward on 4th down is in vogue, whether we're talking about punting situations or bypassing the field goal and trying to keep the drive going and hopefully score a touchdown. And we've seen that to the detriment of a lot of teams recently. The Detroit Lions, while that was the aggressive nature that made them the Detroit Lions, a bit of a feared team for a while, that's also a reason why they're not in the playoffs. That's also a reason why they have failed in the playoffs the last couple of years with this need to go for it on 4th down. Sean Payton was being shadowed by Seth Wickersham last week, and they were watching the wild card games. The divisional games. And Sean turned to Seth and said, they got to go for the points there. So this is a guy who does know better. And I won't put it in the terms of, local writer Mark Krisztal, ego and arrogance. I'll put it on an aggressive nature. I'll put it in that Dan Campbell category of this is who I am as a play caller. This is what we do. But I call bullshit on that because what you do and who you are needs to be subjected to situational football. Is it a weather game? Is the second half going to be difficult for us to move the football? How well is our defense playing? And outside of the decision, to Sean's point, which he alluded to in that clip, the play call, I think it was a ridiculous play call. And then on top of all that, the execution of that play call was incredibly poor. So it was a failure on all 3 points. I don't like the decision. I really don't like the play call. And the execution was terrible.
BK, you're again around that team probably more than anyone that doesn't wear a uniform. And my guess is when you go home at night, you put your uniform on. But that aside,
I have no Broncos clothes that are mine other than a T-shirt that says London is Broncos country that was given to me in London 3 years ago.
I was just taking.
But my
guess,
kids
man.
do. We have a DT jersey that my oldest and I share.
That's
he keeps it.
Legendary. There,
that's different.
Mike or Sean Payton, you're right. We've heard local writer Mark Krisztal, arrogance, as he describes it. Chad is a far more kind guy, which is why I know he doesn't view life through the lens of a linebacker, more like a quarterback. But that aside, but that aside, who is Sean? How would you break it down, given how often you hear him talk and you've seen and analyzed every play that's been made by the Broncos this year?
So you'll hear this said about Sean, that if you want to know how smart Sean Payton is, you can just ask him. Okay. And I'm not the one saying that. I've had a good relationship with Sean well before he came here. Randomly, I met him years ago at the Final Four.
Do you agree with that sentiment?
I understand.
Will he tell you how smart he is?
No, but I do think he likes to remind people the success that he's had. And you can't argue with how good those offenses were in New Orleans, how many games they won, how quickly they won when he finally became a head coach. He's told us, we've gotten the same stories a lot. We've heard a lot about the 2017 draft, which he was focused on Mahomes, where they got Kamara and Henderson and Hendrickson and all these other guys. He also told us about that first draft and building that team. But so from the time he took over a head coaching job, the other story was the Raiders. And we can get to the Raiders stuff with Davis Webb a little later. But he said how he ultimately skipped that job. When he finally took a job, he had success right out of the gate. They went to the NFC title game his first year coming back to New Orleans off Katrina. Mm-hmm. So from the time that he got there, and they had a couple lean years, but they were really good. And it helped having a Hall of Fame quarterback that he got, who had already been to a Pro Bowl in San Diego, and was in year whatever Drew was in, 6, 7, something like that. I'm not doing that to appease kids, but I think it was year 6 or year 7. Point being, they were really good every year, and he wins a lot of football games, and they're really good in their personnel evaluation. I've talked to people in the building. I know people that are in the building that'll tell you how good of an eye for talent he has, something that I think he picked up from Bill Parcells. But he's also, at his core, a quarterback and a play caller that wants to score points. And so I think that can be to his detriment at times. It wasn't against the Chiefs or the Chargers, but in this instance, I feel like there was an element of greed of, I've got enough good plays with Stidham to show everybody how good of a coach I am. Not that he's thinking that actively, but like, oh, we go up 14-0 here, and I know this game is over. And so I think that Kisla calling it his ego feels fair in this instance, because as Chad just mentioned, Seth Wickersham, who's there with them all week, wrote in the piece that he ended up doing, I'm sure it would have been a much longer piece had they won, that they're watching that Bears game, and the Bears go for it on 4th down, and he's saying kick it. Bears don't. It ends up ultimately not costing him, but he's saying kick it himself a week earlier, and then in the moment, he doesn't have anybody in his ear over. Hey, remember, Coach, you said if it's there in the situation, kick it. I'm just saying he doesn't. If he did, he wasn't listening to them.
I think Sean Payton, and I've always felt this about him, he's a very emotional play caller, right? He almost a complete contrast to the head coach who he coached against this weekend. I think Sean Payton has supreme confidence in his offense to make a play. I don't know that Sean Payton during a game focuses out enough to say, what's more important than our potential ability to make this play is how do we best position ourselves to win this game? Like, you're right. There's nothing wrong with saying, if we go up 14, in fact, it's absolutely true. If we go up 14-0, we have an even better chance of winning this game. But the way the game was unfolding, it didn't call for that. And that's kind of my point, Chad. It's not that you have a play that may work. And to be honest with you, if you really go back and look at the play, I think New England, understanding situational football, probably anticipated that they were going to try and run a pick and get the back out really quick. You see this play in the NFL all the time. But the second option there is the guy who's setting the pick. And I think it was little Jordan Humphrey, who had Stidham had any time or could have picked it up quicker. The picker actually came open because, it was like in basketball, the guy who sets the pick, if they're in zone or if they switch, you just roll and you got the defender on your back. All you needed was 1 yard, but the play was blown up because of quick penetration and probably Stidham not getting to that quick enough. That said, I think the difference in that game was the approach that both teams took. I felt like Vrabel was just trying to figure out a way to win the game given the circumstances. And there were a number of plays in that game that I thought Sean is being Sean, right? Which, again, that's not a pejorative. I'm not taking a shot at him. But I don't think he adjusted himself enough to say the objective here is to win what is clearly going to be a nip and tuck fingernail bite game.
As you guys know, I played for the Patriots, and I was in the same linebacker room.
I know who you were rooting for. I know exactly who you were rooting for. So I'm not going to say it. I got a call from Daniel Graham. Everybody I know who ever played for the Patriots, first of all, they're smug as hell, right? So
DG won some rings. I'm not sure Chad was outwardly.
No. Chad, trust me, man. It's something about that damn locker room in New England that once you go in it, you're messed up for life. But go ahead, Chad. I'm sorry, bro.
I shared my linebacker room with Mike Vrabel. And of all the players in my 15 years in the NFL, I never met a guy who was as suited to be an NFL head coach as Mike Vrabel was. And even in the Patriots facility, you can talk about Tom Brady and his football IQ and his football smarts. There was one guy in that locker room who could go blow for blow with Coach Belichick on winning football, and that was Mike Vrabel. And this is when he was still an active player. So for Mike Vrabel to view the game through the lens, which you just talked about, CJ, each situation, not what's aggressive, not what's going to satisfy my ego as a play caller. Not saying Sean Payton was doing that consciously, but we've seen a lot of play calling where that seems to be the case. It's always going to be about what's going to be the best chance for success for our football team. And that's going to change with the situation, the weather, all those kinds of things. So Mike Vrabel, to understand that, just look at the difference in the run game. Mike Vrabel chose to, and Josh McDaniels chose coming out of halftime to shorten the game as best they could. They figured that was going to be there to their advantage. And so Ramondre Stevens was a big part of that drive. 9 minutes and 31-second drive to start the second half. Ramondre Stevens had 25 carries in that game. He was only averaging like 2.8 yards per carry, but the yards weren't as important as the time. Again, what gives my team best chance for success? I don't need a 100-yard rusher right now. I just need to chew up time and get this game over as quickly as possible. So the difference in approach to the game, while Mike Vrabel certainly deserves credit, I think this is a Bill Belichick tip of the cap to him as well, because that's where he learned all that stuff. And that's where Daniel Graham and I learned all that stuff. And from a Patriots perspective, just talking about the weather conditions in the game, and I know some Patriots had some difficult footing out there, just like the Broncos did, but the first weather practice availability in New England, if it's the first rainy day, you go out and you practice outside. How are we going to practice in the rain? If it's the first snowy day in New England, we go outside. We don't go in the bubble. We go outside. We have the equipment manager bring every cleat out possible so you can change your cleats as many times as you need to change them during the course of practice so you can be confident in your footing during a snow game. What does it feel like to catch a football? What does it feel like to throw a football? All those things. So while, the Patriots offense didn't light it up because they had suddenly this footwork advantage over the Broncos in the snow, I'm just talking about the level of detail as far as situational football goes for that New England mindset. And I think in the end, to your point and to my point, CJ, the difference in outlook and understanding the situation in the game tilted itself towards Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, and that's why they're going to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks in Santa Clara.
It's funny you mentioned the weather. We can dive into it a little bit more, but not mentioning the weather. We know that practicing in the weather. We heard from Will Lutz that he's never kicked in the snow before, certainly not in a game. And I don't know very often when they practice, like Sean said, they practiced outside Friday, but it wasn't snowing.
Right.
So I don't know if when it snowed, he's grabbed his long snapper, or at least even his holder, or the little tee that they practice with, and gone out and kicked in the snow. And that clearly might have been to his detriment just a little. Obviously, they got their hands on one that still almost went in on that 45-yarder. But that was just an interesting note that I think when it snows between now and the end of next season, and I don't know how much Will Lutz will be here in the spring, or even if it snows in the spring, he's probably going to kick in the snow a little bit just in case this happens again. But going back to the Vrabel point, and you said Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, look, Josh and Sean, I think, are cut from the same cloth, fellas. I think that Mike Vrabel came out at halftime and said, we are running it, and we're running it and running it. And because Josh, when he had Bill Belichick in his ear, and when he's had Mike Vrabel in his ear, is whatever it takes to win. When Josh has been left to his own devices, he's going to show you how good of a coach he is. And he is a really good play caller and a really good play designer, just like Sean Payton is. But that was a mandate from Mike Vrabel. You could just tell, run. And you talk about the run being a factor. This is something that, CJ, you and I chatted about. We're not the first people to bring it up. Bo Nix couldn't have thrown that touchdown pass to Cortland Sutton any better. He probably couldn't have thrown that deep ball to Marvin Mims to set it up any better than Jarrett Stidham did. But Bo Nix could have done a lot more of what we saw from Drake May in general. I didn't mean the bootleg, but that as well at the very end. Just using his legs in a bad weather game where there's some yards to be had in your, whether it is designed runs. I know he got hurt on a designed run, or in his scrambles when he's rolling out, go pick up 4, 6, 8 yards, use your athleticism.
Yep.
That's where not having Bo Nix, I think, hurt as much as anything.
Well, I think that's where Sean Payton, I think, handicaps a quarterback as well. In this case, I've always sensed a little tension between Bo and Sean, which isn't all that unusual, right? Quarterback coach, particularly a quarterback like Bo, who's been he's been schooled all his life to play the position. He got there's a little arrogance there as well, right? I kind of know what I'm doing, coach. But I do get the sense that if Sean has a flaw, it's that he can overcoach sometimes. The plays that you described that Stenham made are the plays that happen pretty much on schedule, right? The boot to Cortland, that's you got a single read there, and a guy comes wide open. Same with the long pass there earlier in the game. I got the sense that Stenham wanted to make the right play. He wanted to make the right read, and it's probably drilled in his head. In a game like that, and conversely, with a guy like Drake May, who's a finalist probably for the most valuable player in the league. I mean, the guy played damn good football.
No, I think he is. We know NFL honors. He's
a finalist.
Yeah.
But this wasn't that kind of game. It was if you see it, if your first read's not there, go. You're not going to have time, nor are the conditions good enough for us to mess around. Just go get positive yards. This is a positive yards game. 3 yards is not a bad play on first and 10 or 2nd and 8. We need positive yards. And you just got that sense that Stenham wasn't as clear about what he wanted to do. And of course, he's a backup quarterback, which I think is even more incumbent on the head coach to have, listen, if it's not there, just go. Keep us on schedule. Try and keep us at least even with the chains, if not ahead, and we can figure this thing out. If we have to punt it, that's okay too, because our defense is they're going to stand on their head and get a stop for us.
Sean Payton called 13 run plays in the first quarter and I think 2 minutes into the second quarter. So in that short period of time, 13 run plays, 11 the entire rest of the game. So this thing with the run game that continues to crop up all year long. In fact, he was just asked about it last week during the conference call. So this thing continues to crop up where he gets away from the run game. And in this game, a weather game, a game with your backup quarterback, a game where you want to take the air out of the ball as soon as you get a lead, he managed to get away from it again. So, again, I don't want to go with arrogance and ego and go Mark Kisla, but this aggressive nature to make all these plays, that's great as a general outlook. But your outlook always has to be tempered by the guidelines of situational football and conventional football wisdom. And so too often he got away from that I'm not sure, to pursue what goal. But in the end, the goal should always be winning the football game. So I was always struck by my time with the Patriots, because if you got to throw the ball 50 times during the course of a game to win it, that's what they would do. If you got to run the ball 60 times to win it, that's what they will do. If you got to play a defense that's only got 1 defensive lineman on the field and 5 linebackers, that's what they'll do. They're not slavish to a system or to a ratio or to any particular numbers. They're slavish to kicking your ass. And so rather than being a coach who's got a pure system that I operate out of, your system should be, how do I win the game? How do I kick some ass? And then I'll mold my system around that.
I will say this, no, BK, you got a point you got to want to make as well. But to Chad's point, it was extremely Belichickian, right? I mean, they came out in the second half and said, we're just going to run the ball. I've watched Patriots games where they'll come out and do exactly what Chad said. 1 week, they'll throw the ball 50 times, and then everyone will say, that's what the Patriots are. Tom is going to throw the ball 50 times. They figure something out. The next week, they'll come out and throw the ball 17 times and run it 45 times. And it's like they just, whatever they scout up and see where an advantage may be, they just commit to it. And there is something, in my opinion, to be said about, because the trend in the league is the young, hot offensive genius, right? And I do think there's limitations to that. And I think, in a way, what we saw this past Sunday is symbolic of it, right? You had a guy in Vrabel who is just a leader of a team and has a feel for what it's going to take to win this game, not committed to a system, not committed to a particular player who he wants to get the ball to, or even a singular matchup, just taking a step back, not emotional about decisions and viewing objectively what will it take to win this game. And we've seen, I think, the contrast in the two, and that's perhaps is a cautionary tale to owners in this league about how we view who's capable of being a leader of men, a leader of football teams, and give you the best chance to win games, yes, you can be cute offensively, you can put up some scores, but I do think there's an emotional attachment, particularly with offensive coordinators. They fall in love with their own, they smell their own selves way too much, and it always gets them in a pickle.
We should do the research on this, and maybe somebody has, because I want to talk about the run game, but when you talk about the two coaches that are now left in this, in the Super Bowl, Mike Vrabel clearly came from the defensive side of the ball, defensive guy, doesn't have a system, happens to have Josh McDaniels, who may never be a head coach again, although we'll see. You never want to say never in this league. And then Mike McDonald, clearly a defensive guy. He could very easily lose Clint Kubiak to the Raiders or to another team, perhaps. And we know the Kubiak family, they're all offensive guys. And you can list guys like Sean Payton, like Andy Reid, like Mike McCarthy, who just got hired again. And then like the younger guys like Sean McVay and obviously Kyle Shanahan, and then the guys they worked with like Zach Taylor and Matt LaFleur. But I'm kind of getting to the end of the line, Kevin O'Connell as well. Point being, I'd love to know, if we go through the 59 Super Bowl champions, and no matter what a defensive coach is going to get it this year, how many of those head coaches were offensive guys versus defensive guys? Because Belichick has 6, right? And Chuck Noll has 4. Right. So that's 10 defensive Super Bowls right there. Bill Walsh has 3 of his own, but George Seifert, right, has the other 2.
That's right.
And we get Bill Parcells, a defensive guy, right? We could go down the list. Point being, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because if, like, Dan Campbell felt the effects of losing, in this case, both coordinators, with AG going to the Jets, but clearly Ben Johnson was a big part of what their offensive success was the last couple of years in Detroit. Nonetheless, they were still a tough team that was in the mix. And so if you've got that leader of men, coach, defensive guy, whatever, or special teams in John Harbaugh's case, your team's identity isn't going to change. Whereas the Miami Dolphins just got rid of Mike McDaniel, who's clearly a big part of their identity, for better or worse. And now they bring in Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator from the Packers. So their identity has to change.
Right.
And so I think that's maybe overblown. It's like, oh, you're going to, let's pretend Davis Webb were to go with Vance Joseph to Arizona or the Raiders, not be a head coach. And Davis Webb is so good that next year, the year after, he becomes a head coach. Well, the team's identity in one of those places will still look like Vance Joseph, or like Mike Tomlin's teams did for 18 years, and 19 years in Pittsburgh.
Regardless of who the coordinator
or Pete Carroll, who had different coordinators on both sides of the ball forever, and we knew what that team was in Seattle.
No, I think that would be an interesting study. I think it would be interesting to see, exactly what the numbers are.
DC, get on it real quick. 59.
Right. You've already routed off a few of them. I mean, and it does appear that probably more defensive head coach success. Belichick obviously blows the curve on that. But I think the point is how do you see the game universally? I think offensive minds see the game from an attack. How many points can we score? We'll outscore them, as opposed to a different mindset that says, listen, it's okay to punt it here. I don't know that it's ever okay in Sean Payton's mind to just punt the ball. His instinct, Ben Johnson, their instinct is to always want to keep possession of the ball and score a touchdown, which is fine as an offensive coordinator. But as a head coach, there are times when where'd Ben Johnson come from? Working with Dan Campbell in Detroit. And where'd Dan Campbell come from? Working with Sean Payton. I mean, Dan's taking it, I think, to the extreme. Dan is your gold standard of, we're going for it. And as players, you love it. And if it works out more times than not, great. But in critical situations, and that's the thing about playoffs, people like, Sean said, the biggest determinant of wins or losses is who wins the turnover battle, because you can get away with 5 turnovers and still win a game in the regular season against bad teams. In the playoffs, even if you've got the reigning MVP, 5 turnovers, you're almost certainly going to lose. Right. And playoffs are good teams. So when you're playing good teams, you can't have those margin for error. So getting away with bad 4th down calls in the regular season is okay. In the playoffs, it costs you a chance to advance a lot of times.
Again, I'm all down for play callers being aggressive. But again, situational understanding. So I think what you're saying, CJ, about, yes, your system as a coordinator, you can be aggressive, but playoffs bring a whole different level of situational football to it. You have to assume that the team on the other sideline, because they're in the playoffs, have good situational understanding. Right. And so their ability to know what's coming next. The fact that the Broncos went to a similar play which ended up being the fourth down stop as they scored the touchdown with earlier. Well, don't you think that the Patriots went to the sideline and talked about that and talked about assignments and talked about how we're going to deal with that style of play and who's responsible for what? So the coaching arrogance for Sean Payton to go back to that same well on a play that clearly the Patriots had just talked about defensively,
right?
That's where the ego and arrogance comes in for Mark Kisla. And again, I see the aggressiveness. That's a red zone play call that every team in the league does, and it definitely presents some conflict to the defense with how we're going to deal with this. But when you've already run it, the defense has a chance to talk about it. The cat's out the bag now. We are going to be prepared for this play. So your aggressiveness needs to be tempered by, again, the situational understanding.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need, sometimes the adult, the final decision maker has to be the person that says, not the guy that says, we're going to do this. Oftentimes it's the guy who says, we're not going to do that, right? We're just not going to do that. Josh McDaniels, I'm sure Josh's game plan wasn't, to your point, Chad, earlier, we're going to come out in the second half and we're not going to throw the ball. We're just going to run it. And the adult, the final decision maker is the one who likely said, here is the kind of game this is going to be. Put that damn play sheet aside right now, and this is what we're going to do. And then we will adjust from there. But I got a feeling this is what we're going to do. And of course, second in charge does what the boss says. That's the value of a Vrabel to me. In a situation like Sean Payton, and you see this in the league, there's no check to that. There's no check or balance to that, right? When an offensive guy has an instinct to do something, that's an itch they almost have to scratch. And there's no one who can go up to Sean Payton and say, hey, man, it's probably not a good idea, coach. Like, all we need is the three. No one's likely to say that.
You would have loved, I mean, maybe that's honestly, if you're going to pick the people on the staff, even though Joe Lombardi's been with him forever and the rest of those guys.
Why do you think Joe Lombardi been with him forever? Because he ain't going up to him and saying, hey, man, don't do that.
The guy that I think had the best chance to do it isn't Vance Joseph, although VJ can say, come on, Sean, I got you covered. Look at how well we're playing. Vance could have done that, but he's not going to. He understands they've been together 3 years. It's gone well, but he hasn't been with them for forever. It was probably Joe Vitt, who is an old school defensive guy that's been around him forever, you know, with his got the New York edge to him that could have said, hey, New York, New Jersey, like, look, Sean, let's just go. What would Bill Parcells do right here? Get the 3 points. And because, like Sean said, it happened so fast. But once you have the timeout, then it becomes even more, all right, I know we just blew a timeout, and I know you got what you think is a good play call. Let's get the 3 points. About the run game, two things, because one relates to that 4th and 1. You had just picked up yards on the ground for a first down with Adam Prentice. He's not going to carry the ball for a lot of yards ever. Point being, you showed you could pick up the 1 yard you needed because you got 3 or 4. Run something with Prentice, with even RJ Harvey, who at least shows he can break first contact a lot, or the keeper with Stidham, and I understand you're not going to be as comfortable with a guy that hasn't taken it. But I want to see, if you're trying to deflate the other team and go up 14-0, give me a short yardage, something close. The duo block that was there, they said, and then they checked out of it after the timeout or changed the play. I want to see that. And then Sean Payton today, we played that clip from him earlier. He was asked about addressing the run game. Said he was in Zach Strief's office yesterday, the O-line coach, and they like their backs. They want Dobbins back, but that it has to be a point of emphasis. That being said, Sean's only had 3 1,000-yard rushers ever, and it's like, Deuce McAllister early in his career for like, it's Reggie Bush.
That's a blast from the past.
And Mark, maybe he's at 4 with Kamara was the 4th one. And Dobbins was cruising there. Dobbins was almost at 800 yards through 10 games. Dobbins would have been a 1,000-yard rusher, but he wouldn't have been a 1,500. I don't think.
Here's a question. And anything else on that particular game? The Broncos, 15 wins, 14 losses, I think, overall this year. An outstanding year.
Not 14 losses?
I mean, 4 losses, excuse me. 15 wins, 4 losses. An incredible season. I think no one expected this outcome.
Except Sean.
Probably more to the point. Here is the question. Is this the type of season on which you ride into? Is this the type of team that you can project in 2026, the 2026 season and say the Denver Broncos are a favorite because of what we saw in 2025 to win the AFC West, perhaps the AFC overall? Or was this a moment in time that was just set up perfectly for this team to take advantage of and do something special this year, but doesn't necessarily have the coattails that we've seen with some teams in the past? Chad, your thought on that? Does this carry over and give the Broncos that sort of, have they earned the right to be viewed as a favorite next year because of what took place this year?
This year, they defied conventional football wisdom with a lot of things that they were able to overcome, or things that didn't affect them as far as the win and loss column. The number of close games that they had, 13 comeback wins. I mean, we can rattle them off. 33 points needed against the Giants in the fourth quarter, all that kind of stuff. The ball's not going to bounce your way as cleanly next year. The fact that you were incredibly lucky injury-wise, outside of Ben Powers and J.K. Dobbins, I mean, who else has missed significant time? So there's
Dre
that.
Greenlaw.
What's that?
Dre Greenlaw was about it, though.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. On the defensive side of the ball, Dre Greenlaw would be the one.
Sorry, but on the offensive side, you're right. It was just the two. It's Ben Powers and J.K. Dobbins. That's it.
Yeah. Pat Surtain missed some time, but defense really didn't miss a beat. So are you going to be as lucky injury-wise next year? The coaching staff. Clearly, this coaching staff, because they're a successful team, is going to be poached. So whether it's Jim Leonard, who looks like he's going to get an opportunity, VJ, I'm not sure if he's actually going to get an opportunity, but Davis Webb's going to get one as well. So there's going to be guys on the coaching staff who had instrumental roles this year that are going to be different. And then there's always the hangover, either from the Super Bowl loser standpoint, which the Broncos aren't, or the championship game loser. Because you as a football team, as a football player, just want to do everything you can to get back to that same moment next year. And you walk into the season sleepwalking a bit. It happens to almost every single football team, unless you've got really high football character and a coach who is able to eliminate that kind of thinking from your mind, CJ. We went this in 1990. After the undefeated season in 89, we thought we would just be able to get right back to the Orange Bowl. And we start that season 1-1-1. And we needed literally a come to Jesus moment with Coach Mack at the College Inn before we left for that Texas game to get our minds right. My Pittsburgh Steelers, after we lost the AFC Championship game to the San Diego Chargers in Junior Seau, the next season we were 3-4, and we needed a come to Jesus moment where we had to get our shit together. So if this Broncos team gets off to a slow start, as our Buffs, as my Steelers did, in a division where now Eric Bieniemy is back in Kansas City, calling plays, producing some of their best offensive success when he's been the play caller there. With Mike McDaniels now in LA with the Chargers, that run game is going to have a whole different level of effectiveness, plus with the Harbaugh toughness there. Who knows what the Raiders do? So this division in some ways is going to be better. The Broncos will be chipped away at, from at least from a coaching standpoint, although the roster should stay the same. And they've got to fight through this, can we just hurry up and get back to the championship game mindset that almost every team has to fight through. So you can't just say we're going to run the same thing back, because it's going to be a whole different team with a different set of circumstances around them. But having said all that, the roster is still a Super Bowl capable roster.
Yeah, and this year they returned 84% of that roster. And then the Greenlaw injury notwithstanding, I think he was solid when he played, but he just obviously missed so much time. And because Ternad played so well too, and Alex Singleton was on the field most of the year, you didn't get as much from Greenlaw as you might have had you just been healthy from the jump. And then it was interesting yesterday, him saying that Sean's a little more old school than Kyle Shanahan. And Sean even acknowledged today that maybe he needs to take care of guys like Greenlaw and Cortland Sutton on Wednesdays a little bit more and give him just those veteran rest days that he's not necessarily always accustomed to. But Hufanga, second team All-Pro, that's a big signing. And Dobbins you added. But beyond that, other than your rookies who you drafted, you brought all those guys back, and almost all of them are under contract. You got to decide on Singleton. They have money to spend too, because of the dead money from Russell Wilson now last year and this year, plus the cap goes up, which is why Singleton joked he wants to be the highest paid defensive player and wants all of the Russell Wilson money, $35 million or whatever. But otherwise, the guys I mentioned, Greenlaw and Hufanga, Brandon Jones is coming back off injury. You're set with your secondary. You have to decide if Jaquan McMillan gets offered anywhere else Do you match it as a restricted free agent? Up front, you're going to have everybody back. Savion Jones is clearly going to be in the mix, taking the JFM snaps along with Ini Uwazurike, 96, who's really good against the run. But you got Roach back and DJ Jones. So you're set on defense. Your offensive line is locked in. You've got the young receivers going with Cortland back. I think you need to upgrade your tight end room. But and your backfield, even with Dobbins, and I think they bring Dobbins back on a 2 or 3 year deal. Point being, they had 84% back last year. The math right there says they're going to have about 80-ish% back next year. But to the point both of y'all have made, it doesn't mean, and Sean and George said it a year ago, and they said it again today, you don't get to start back in the playoffs. You don't get to start as the 1 seed next year. You start 0-0, and if you start out 3-4, you may not be able to dig out of that hole in this division, knowing that, I know we talk about first place schedule, last place schedule, whatever. Because of the way the league works, you now have 3 games against the first place teams from the other division. So you're going to see, and I got to do this off the top of my head here real quick, you're going to see the Eagles again. I guess it was the Eagles this year. Who'd they play last year? You're going to see the first place team from the NFC, and then you're going to see the Texans, and you're going to see the
Chicago.
Yes, maybe you're seeing Chicago, and then you're going to see who's the other first place team that is in the AFC East. What's that? AFC Central. You're going to see the Steelers. Mm-hmm. So they're playing the first place team, whereas the Raiders are playing the last place teams and all those. Right. And those are 3 games which we know how close it can be to winning the division or being the top seed. Those 3 games matter in that regard, I think.
The timing was right. Let's just keep it real on this. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs were just down. They couldn't figure it out all year long. Let's not bank on that for the 2026 season. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens similarly just couldn't quite get it right? Let's not bank on that. Josh Allen, who the Broncos did beat here in the playoffs, probably his worst overall team. Changes will be made. There will be improvements there. So we saw a conference, the AFC, where...
And you meant Joe Burrow too.
That's right. Joe, Cincinnati, you got to figure with his health, that's going to be a different. I mean, the absolute best quarterbacks in this league, with the exception of a couple, Stafford and over in the NFC, you got to figure that that's not going to happen again. Chad, it kind of reminds me a little bit. You mentioned our 1990, 89, 90 teams. We got a lot of you guys from California, from the Los Angeles area, and was able to build as a foundation a national championship run, in part because the LA teams were down. You talk about taking advantage of what USC wasn't at that time and what UCLA wasn't at that time. I look at what's happening right now in this conference, and I'm saying this year was just an anomaly. You don't win 13, comeback games. You don't have seasons where Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are not even in the playoffs. These things don't happen where Josh Allen, he squeaks in and his team's not very good. I mean, he has to be Superman and of course, Joe Burrow and Cincinnati, he's out for most of the season and without him, they're nothing. These things just don't happen. So when you turn inward and say, what is it that we have? Because those teams, those markets are saying just that. We'll be fine because Patrick in this offense, as you mentioned, Bieniemy back, we kind of got the band of brothers back together.
Well, Herbert's going to get his tackles back at some point. We have to think the Chargers are going to win a playoff game.
I'm not going to go that far because I've been hearing about them for a decade now. But the point is all of those markets are saying, listen, have no fear. Lamar is here. Josh Allen, if he's on our team, we always got a chance to win a Super Bowl. What are we saying? What is this market saying that assure the fan base that we'll be right back where we were?
I don't think you can assure. I don't think you can make that assurance. I think this is again a Super Bowl worthy roster, but that's not enough. You need some luck. You need some health. You need some great coaching along the way. Your improvement or your ability to run it back is not in a vacuum. Everyone else around you is now trying to improve. And so if Vance Joseph doesn't leave and get some head coaching job someplace, every offensive coordinator that is going to be playing the Broncos is going to study that defense and begin to find ways to be successful against it. What are we going to do with Nick Bonito? What are we going to do with Jonathan Cooper? What makes Alex Singleton so productive? How do we deal with Pat Surtain? Because you can definitely get some yards in him. What are these routes that he's weakest against? So when you're up top, you get chipped away from a coaching standpoint. And then everybody, when they do their film study, their film projects in the offseason, you don't watch film on the Raiders. You watch teams that are on the
Oh, do we lose Chad there? I think
those
we-
guys.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Vance Joseph, it's happened while we've been talking. Anthony Campanile, the Jaguars defensive coordinator, has pulled out of the Arizona Cardinals coaching search. And there's people that handicap coaches, betonline.ag, somebody else who's, I think, based in Vegas. And I saw earlier today that Mike LaFleur, who had dinner with them last night, that was reported in Arizona, was the odds-on favorite at like minus 250. Then Anthony Campanile was second, and Vance Joseph, who hasn't even had a formal interview with Arizona, but spent 4 years there and had multiple interviews the last time around when they ended up hiring Jonathan Gannon, knows Michael Bidwell, worked for him for 4 years, has a close relationship, and interviewed with Monty Ossenfort, who was the new GM 3 years ago. So Vance doesn't need to get past, he's gotten past that part. If Mike LaFleur doesn't wow him or they're not ready to give him the job, it's just interesting. Campanile pulled out. Do they look at Mike LaFleur, who doesn't call plays? He called plays for the Jets. That didn't go great when he was there with Saleh. He goes
That's
back.
not ever something you want to put on your resume, by the way.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
Call plays for the Jets.
I know. Johnny Moe, who got fired in Detroit, who's
Right.
now back in Denver,
Right.
called plays for the Jets a few years ago. We saw Nathaniel
right.
Hackett call plays for the Jets. It doesn't normally go well. But that's the only time Mike LaFleur's called plays. Otherwise, he's been on staffs. His brother obviously was there with the Rams, and Mike, I think, was with the 49ers. So he's around Kyle. But Mike obviously didn't call plays with Kyle. And then Matt goes, to Green Bay. Mike goes with Saleh. Point being, Mike hasn't called plays except the 1 year with the Jets. He got fired. If the Cardinals like Mike LaFleur, but not enough to run their whole building, I'm not saying Sean wouldn't let him go, but I think Sean McVay would let him go call plays, even if it's in their division. And maybe Vance Joseph's odds got better. I mean, you guys might know more than me. There's been no reporting on.
Well, if we do, we're not going to say.
Yeah, certainly I get that. But point being, I just thought it was interesting while we were talking, Anthony Campanile came back. And so whether you're studying Vance Joseph or not, you asked the question, what do the Broncos have to build on? We know defense travels, and every one of those bad dudes is going to be back, save for JFM and maybe J-Mac. But if J-Mac isn't back, then your first-round pick's going to slide in Jahdae Barron and be your nickel. So everyone else is back. For the most part, maybe Sternad's not back.
I
but,
hear you. And I was, defense travels, and it's been long said that defense wins championships.
Damn right.
Some defender came up with that. I'm certain.
It's like the person that said it's good luck when it rains on your wedding day. It's like somebody years ago was like, hey, it's good luck when it rains. And it's like, really? Well, it's pouring right now, so let's just hope for the best.
She left his ass within 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, look at the divorce rate in America. So I'm not sure that one holds true. And also there's a boatload of offensive coaches who have won Super Bowls.
You know what's amazing to me? I've never seen anything like this coaching cycle. First of all, you have 10 jobs that come open, right?
Which happened twice ever, 78 and one other time.
Right, like 96 or something. That in and of itself was an anomaly. But I've never seen a cycle where so many coaches are turning down or pulling out publicly of coaching opportunities. And it just goes to show, I think there is a logic to it, right? If I have a damn good coordinating job, I'm a coordinator and I got a good job, it also speaks to the amount of money these guys make, right? Like these coordinators are making some pretty good coin these days. Why would I chase the Cleveland Browns, which is a cluster, and it always have been? And I know my shelf life there is likely to be 2 to 3 years, and the damage that I would endure in terms of my reputation potentially. I'll just stay where I'm at. We're built to be a playoff team, whatever the circumstance or the situation is, and wait for other cycles to come around, which there are no guarantees. I've just never seen anything like it where coaches are kind of picking their shots and saying, no, not going to take that job. I'll wait it out.
When you think about the pillars of success in the NFL, ownership is a huge piece of that. ownership, GM, head coach, quarterback. If you can check off 3 of those 4 boxes, chances are you're going to be a pretty successful football team. And so the reason why I think folks are turning some of these jobs down is because, to your point, who wants to go to the mess in Cleveland and have an awful ownership group and an uncertain quarterback position or uncertain quarterback room begin to determine your fate? There's plenty of time. Vance Joseph, speaking specifically about him, he's our contemporary. He's not an old man. He's got another head coaching opportunity in front of him, but I'm sure he wants it to make it the right one. The last time in Denver, there were folks up in the front office who didn't allow him to do what he needed to do from a hiring coach standpoint, from playing the players he wanted to play standpoint. Now, after going through that, would you go to another situation where the front office is uncertain or the ownership is meddling? No, of course you wouldn't. He can recognize where that was to his detriment and to his downfall as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. And it'd be far wiser to wait for a better opportunity where you get to actually be the guy who steers the boat rather than the guy who's going to take the blame in the fall. I would operate as a lot of these guys are this year. Yeah, I want an opportunity, but I don't want that one over there because that one sucks because that owner is terrible.
Yeah, you asked about who is Sean Payton. Well, he's a guy that repeats a lot of the same sayings, but one that he's talked about over the years, and he said it a few times this year, is that only about 10 or 12 franchises can win a Super Bowl because of ownership. And because the other 20-ish don't have it right, they're never going to give their franchise a chance to win a championship. They might have some winning years, but they can't stay out of their own way or their owner's way, or their coach's way, their personnel people, their team's way. And so sometimes you're getting hired just to get fired, not with the intent, but Cleveland had Kevin Stefanski for 6 years. He won 2 Coach of the Year honors. He finally has a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he gets fired. And so, but whether that's Cleveland, the Raiders, biggest thing with the Raiders right now, they've got appealing pieces to it with an ownership that went from having no money to $7 billion because of the value of the franchise and the money that came in with Brady and his group. But that's kind of the biggest thing. And so, a couple of good players and number 1 pick. Is Tom Brady really running the team from Miami when he's at a different game every weekend? Is John Spytek empowered to run the team? Will the head coach and John be able to work together? Or are they having to check more times than not with Tom Brady? And John even said it in his end of year presser that I'm not talking about practice squad moves and stuff. I'm not talking to Tom about that necessarily. But the point is that's still kind of a mess there, even if it's getting better, we think. We know what Arizona's been. We know what some of these teams have been. And so because of that, that's where I think Sean is probably right. And you look at who wins Super Bowls, it's kind of the same teams. That's what made the Baltimore opening, for as good as stable as the Giants and Steelers ownership have been, they don't necessarily have an influx of cash where they're like
right.
Top line. The Panthers owner, he gets in the way. He has $20 billion, but he gets in the way. That's what makes this ownership group maybe the most impressive because they have the most money and they're letting their football people be football people. And look at the success they've had in very short time.
The success of your wardrobe today is notable. I got to give a shout out to my girl, Miss Peggy, right there on the BK. There we go, right there.
I felt bad last week
so
wearing my
right
Jayhawk stuff. I didn't feel bad wearing it, but you were uncomfortable knowing the Jayhawks were in town and we're going to take care of business in Boulder at Allen Fieldhouse, Rocky Mountain, and they did.
I knew.
And then they went to Allen Fieldhouse West in Manhattan, Kansas, and won on Sunday. Sorry, DC, former K-State player himself.
I figured you.
But who doesn't love Miss Peggy?
I figured you'd find a way to wedge in.
Who doesn't love Miss Peggy? Look, she was there cheering for a Pro Bowl quarterback the last 2 years, whose numbers retired.
Which we'll
thankfully
get to in a second. There's a relationship between that Cleveland Browns Pro Bowl quarterback Chad and Miss Peggy, of course, being the number 1 super fan for your Colorado Buffaloes. Before we get to Pro Bowl and all that stuff, I got to give a shout out to my folks over at Golf Den. That's golf-den.com. A concourse, Denver Airport, mezzanine level. I'm telling you right now, I do it every time I travel now, Chad. You all will be traveling Super Bowl bound at some point. Get to the airport a little early, right? When you come back in town, go over to Golf Den. Work on your game. This is the time to work on it. Chad, you can't be good going to your first practice in training camp. You have to work in the off season. So I'm encouraging you to get over to Golf Den, golf-den.com. You can check it out, make a reservation, and get you some swings in, bro. Because what happens is you start in June, and by the end of July, you've concluded accurately that I'm no good. You're no good because you didn't start in February.
Well, I bet Golf Den on Sunday, especially Sunday afternoon, evening, as people were trying to get out of town and couldn't. They're there watching the AFC title game, NFC title game. It's more than just a place to go.
You can have
sticks
a pop.
too. Go have a pop, watch the games. I'm sure they had a really busy day on Sunday, and it was a lot of fun and more people discovering it. But you're right. This is the first time I'm getting on a plane since the Broncos Raiders game, because I skipped Christmas night in KC. So I'm looking forward to stopping by Golf Den on my way to San Francisco.
Encourage you to do it. Chad, I'm encouraging you to do it as well, man. I want the story to be a little different in 2026, my friend. Hey, that's golf.
Take advantage. Go ahead. Sorry.
Say that again, Chad.
I was going to say I'm going to fully take advantage of the golf tournament opportunities in front of me this year. So Golf Den is in my plans, no doubt.
They've got to have left-handed clubs for Chad.
Oh,
yes.
Of course.
They got kid club for CJ.
You guys practice that. You guys worked on that. You know what?
That's just being good at what we do.
Yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Hey, man, speaking of Pro Bowl quarterbacks, the good news came from out of the NFL yesterday. I mean, look, brother, league finally got one right.
Finally
got one right. My man Shador has been selected to play in the 2026 Pro Bowl next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Tuesday. So that is one thing about the Pro Bowl this year. I mean, it's turned into flag football. We understand that. And I don't even know how much beyond that. Maybe I think they're paring down the dodgeball and all the other stuff. I think it's kind of mostly the flag football game. I need to find out more details because we now have 6 Broncos that will be a part of it. Garrett Bowles going to his first Pro Bowl in year 9, just like his first All-Pro selection. But Quinn Miners is in the Pro Bowl, and obviously PS2 again, Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, and Cortland Sutton. And so they will all be there with Shador Sanders. It's going to be in the convention center where they have all the fan stuff.
This
fan
is hilarious, man.
It's going to be on two. Oh, I know this. No one ever pays attention to the Pro Bowl beyond, it's on TV on the Sunday before the Super Bowl. Oh, there's Peyton and Eli coaching up flag football, or maybe
that's
you saw
when I
it.
turn immediately.
Sure.
Like no one's watching
Point
the
is,
damn Pro Bowl.
A lot of us will be there to cover it on Tuesday.
Are you covering the Pro Bowl?
Well, I got 6 Broncos to go cover now. So, but
when are they going?
we're going to talk to them about the 4th and 1 play again and where their heads
all right,
at.
that's okay.
Am I going to talk to them about, hey, how great of a pass was that from Shador PS2? Because defense and offensive guys flip-flop, So, I mean, maybe Shador jumps to defense and asks his dad and brother for some tips.
Well, here's what's cool about it. You mentioned Garrett Bowles, his first Pro Bowl. He gets to share that stage with another guy who's going to be in his first Pro Bowl. That happens to be his rookie year, and Shador Sanders.
He has a chance to be a Pro Bowler every year he plays now.
That's if you
very
can't
few
be
people
one
can
every
say that.
year
Aaron
if you're
Donald,
not
I
the
think,
first.
is.
Chad, you played in some Pro Bowls.
I did play in some Pro Bowls, and playing the Pro Bowl, it was different back in the day. I played in the Pro Bowl when it was actually a football game. When the difference between the appearance of the dollars for winning or losing was significant enough that you came out and actually played hard. We were so lowly paid at that time in comparison to today's players that the difference mattered. And what was I going to be able to pay for this trip? You fly your family and your in-laws and your siblings out to Hawaii and you feed them 3 meals a day. Hell yeah, you want to win that game because all that money needs to go to pay for this trip that I'd sponsored for all my family. It's supposed to be congratulations to me. It ends up being, hey, congratulations to y'all for being related to me.
Chad, do you remember how much? What was the difference in the Pro Bowl?
It's double, right? Whatever it used to be.
Double. I think my first year it was 20,000 and then 40,000. And then I think by the time my last year maybe it was 30 and 60 because I made it a couple of times, 3 times.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you lost, that 30 grand did not cover everyone's plane flights. The Ihalani, the hotel where the Pro Bowl used to be stationed, it was like $800 a night. And every time you sat down for a meal, it was $100 a person to feed people. So yeah, I wanted to win that game. I actually gave a halftime speech. I'm not a halftime speech guy. We got to get this shit together, y'all. We got to win.
Well, I want to ask you because Peyton Manning famously, we know he's a prankster in general, but he had no problem asking a young player, what room are you staying in? Because I'm going to swing by and grab you. We're going to go grab some drinks later or whatever. Just to know then, okay, Shedeur Sanders is in room 1115 because y'all were all in the same hotel. Oh, we're going to put this on room 1115, Sanders. And all of a sudden, that rookie or that young guy has not a $20,000 bill or but a $50,000 bill. Did you ever have that with anyone that you know that it happened to or saw it happening or warned somebody? Can you take us through any of those occurrences?
Yes. So this involves two Bronco greats who also one of them is a Buff great as well. So Alfred Williams and I make the Pro Bowl 96. I'm in stretch line behind Alfred, and he's like, "Hey, man, what are you doing after practice?" I'm like, "I'm just going to kick it by the pool with the family." "You like jet skis, Chad?" "Yeah, I like jet skis." "Man, let's go down to Waikiki, get some jet skis. It'll be a great afternoon." "All right, man, I am in. Meet me at the pool bar right after practice." So I get down to the pool bar right after practice. Actually, after practice, I went and told Kristen Brown, my wife, in the hotel room. She's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, me and Alfred, we're going to go down to Waikiki. We're going to get some jet skis. It's going to be great, blah, 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 blah." I get down to the pool bar. Alfred has set me up to pay for the drinks for all the Pro Bowl veterans. So it's Neil Smith. It's Derek Thomas. It's Michael Dean Perry. So Alfred obviously got caught the day before. So his job was to catch me the next day. So he catches me. So after about 30 minutes, I go up to the bartender. I'm like, "Here, man, I'm going to fill this tab out. I'm going to cap it at $1,000. That's it. These guys can drink as much as it costs, up to $1,000. I'm done. I'm signing the bill now." But you know what happened the next day at practice? I go up to Terrell Davis. "Hey, TD, man, you like jet skis?" "Oh, sweet. Let's go. Let's do some jet skis down in Waikiki. Meet me at the pool bar right after practice." So I handed off Terrell Davis to the Neil Smith and Derek Thomas and all those guys the next day. And TD, I'm not sure what his bar tab was and how he cut it off, but that's a Pro Bowl tradition. And yes, I got involved due to Alfred, and I had to involve TD because, someone else has got to pay.
Well, that tradition isn't restricted to Pro Bowls.
Sure.
In fact, we were just not long ago on a golf trip. And the last thing you want to do, you check into the hotel, all the fellas are there, got your golf clubs, and you're checking in, and oftentimes you're early, so you're sitting around the lobby. The last thing you do is share your room number. And we'll ask, like, what room you in? And as soon as someone yells it, just shout out their room number. It's inevitable. When we check out, they are arguing with the front desk clerk. Like, where did these charges come from? And we're just sitting there like, "Hey, man, pay your bill, bro."
We've all been to hotel bars, and this is kind of a good test of, one, what kind of listener are you? And two, are you a good person or not? Because we hear, like, Chad Brown, Charles Johnson, you guys do not have the hardest last names to spell. So if I'm there and you pull up next to me and I'm minding my own business and I hear, "Oh yeah, Johnson, room 854. Okay, we run it. Here you go, Mr. Johnson. I know I can spell Johnson. You may not be able to spell Krisztal.
Why would I have to spell it correctly?
They might just, no. If I said Krisztal, you're like, "Oh," and you spelled it wrong, I'd be like, "Well, you spell my name with a C, dummies."
I'm saying,
if I hear you say Johnson, I'm saying I don't even know you. I hear you say Johnson, I hear you say Brown and give the room number.
Oh,
next time I go back.
Oh, you're talking about criminal activity.
Criminal activity. This is how you have to decide, are you a criminal or not? I am not a criminal. I'm simply saying when your last name is Johnson or Brown, you got to be careful who's in earshot when you tell the person behind, especially if you're drinking and having a good time at a pool bar in Hawaii, in Mexico, somewhere where,
BK just took it to a whole different level, man.
I'm just saying, you got to watch out.
Time for that.
Of course you could. They could prove that you were the one that put those drinks on your
everywhere.
Room. Okay. Yeah, because the Mexican courts are going to call you up and say, "You need to come back here to Cancun because Mr. Johnson said there's $180."
Waikiki is in the United States.
Well, Waikiki's different, but either way, I'm not sure. Point being, you have to decide: are you a good person morally, or are you a bad person?
I think Brandon's PSA is smart.
Just be careful.
Yes, because people often charge things to the room. "Hey, I'm gonna put this on my room tab," and the first question they ask, "What room are you in?" And you say it out loud. And then, yes, all it takes is for someone to go, "Hey, man, nice to meet you. What's your name again?" "Oh, yeah. Charles Johnson." Now I got it. Got your room number, got your last name. Drinks on CJ.
Well, actually, what I told him was my name was Alfred Williams.
There you go.
Anyway,
Also easy to
hey,
spell.
before we get out of here, man, speaking of saying things out loud, see, you made some news this week. Coach Prime comes out and talks about publicly, and I would imagine this isn't the only program that's doing it, but which is oftentimes the case with Coach Prime. He's the one who will say it out loud. Fines for players who break rules. I just wanted to, before we get out of here, get your stance on it. I think if you're late to a meeting, it's like $1,000 fine. If you're, in this world of NIL where everyone's making money, this level of accountability being paid off in money and dinero and in dollars and cents. Your thoughts on that move that Coach Prime is making, and I'm sure, as I mentioned, other programs are doing.
My only question, and I saw the headline and I saw the tweets. Is there a threshold? Because not everyone is there making money. And so if you are a scholarship player, but maybe you get a little bit from the collector, maybe not. I guess I don't know.
You got the revenue share.
To the guys in the 70s and 80s,
making
everybody's making something. So as long as, I'm just saying, walk-ons probably are exempt from this, I would think, in general. But walk-ons you don't really have to worry about them too much. I wouldn't think. I guess every now and then.
If you miss a meeting, you got a bigger problem than a fine.
Sure, but all 85 guys or whatever the number is these days, they're all.
Well, I mean, you got the revenue share, so everyone's making something.
Okay.
But I think the larger point is the docking of pay to punish.
Presumably, the players have to sign the agreement, right? I guess I don't. Is he allowed to just openly fine them? Because in the NFL, you are an employee of that franchise, or in the NBA. So, like, I remember Derek Coleman for your Pistons famously when they changed
grew up with DC.
When they changed the, I guess, Pistons and Nets, but when they changed the dress code, really just because of Allen Iverson and his swag, like, you got to wear suits. Derek Coleman went up to Larry Brown and wrote a check for whatever the number was, $80,000, and said, "I'm not wearing a suit to any game. Here you go." And I don't think it's even Larry Brown's to cash. I think it was just okay. But either way, he was like,
"Wait a minute. Which preemptive check do you guys think was most valuable? The one that DC wrote to the commission of the NBA, or the one that oh my goodness, who's our superstar for the Minnesota Timberwolves?
Oh, Anthony Edwards. That's a different.
Anthony Edwards wrote his
18 million or whatever
to all
it was.
his baby mamas. Which ones do you guys think?
The way you can track it too is Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant has no problem going at Ant all day and all night on Twitter.
Anthony Edwards writes a check to his baby's mom, basically to the court, saying, "Look, I'm not doing this child support thing right here. Just tell me how much I need. I'm gonna write this check." We probably shouldn't laugh at it, but it's funny as hell.
It's his choice. I mean,
he writes a big check, and says, "I'm done."
All right. Okay. So back to the prime fine.
You want to talk about that?
And the CU Buffs.
No one wants to talk about that.
It's your show. But he wants to talk about prime first.
You want to talk about the baby mama check? Go ahead, Chad.
I'm happy to dive into that, but I think BK brings up a great point. If you're going to fine these kids, because they're still kids, then they need to be employees, and they need to be given the same protections that other employees have. And so the NCAA and college football, obviously things are in a bit of a wild, wild west period. But if more programs adopt what Coach Prime is trying to do here, then this just completely blurs and takes away, it doesn't blur, it takes away the line between, they're not employees, because they will be employees if you start fining them. And so
I think
then this would mandate that the other part of this equation be addressed. If you can find them and punish them as employees, then they also need the same protections that other employees have. If you can be essentially fired for cause, as these kids lose their scholarship, you can be fined for conduct detrimental to the team or being late or whatever, then they also need to be given employee protection. So we're getting into a weird area now with college sports, and this Coach Prime, by being public with this, is pushing this conversation to the forefront.
Well, and to answer your question, I don't have a problem with it fundamentally, as long as everyone knows that it's coming. And he's obviously not hiding it. So I'm guessing that, like anyone else, like any coach, is like, hey, if you don't like what I'm doing, you can leave. He's got this fine system, and anybody that's transferred in or is already on the roster, if they don't agree to this, then they don't have to stay on the team and they can just part ways. But I imagine that he at least has to get all of them to sign off on it, which I don't think is a hard thing. So I don't hate it. I'm with Chad about just as long as it's above board, which in this case it appears to be.
Well, I love the conversation. I didn't know my boys were such labor rights guys, and I'm a Detroiter, so I'm all about that as well. But I do think, to your point, Chad, this is the next shoe to drop in the sort of NCAA college sports, particularly football saga, will be collective bargaining. There will have to be some, because you're right, it's not all spelled out, unlike in the National Football League with its players union and the negotiations with the league or with ownership. That's the next shoe to drop. And again, the NCAA is they're being dragged to this reality that this is just where we are. We should have been having this conversation should have been had 15 years ago. And it's so messy right now and so cumbersome that common sense things, you're paying players, you have rules. One of the sticks you have to enforce your rules is the DACA pay. And to your point, without an agreement, that's still muddy a little bit. So everything that happens in college football, it seems, is a day late, a dollar short. But to be sure, they will catch up. And I'm really looking forward to the day where athletes can organize and have representation on their behalf to negotiate these things out with the NCAA or with whatever, I say NCAA, but with whoever the sanctioning body is that overlooks college football in particular in this case.
These kids, they signed an agreement, a rev share agreement. And I don't think fines are a part of that agreement. So if Juju crosses his arms and says, I ain't paying you, Coach Prime, I ain't giving you my money, Coach Prime really has no leverage in that situation contractually. So this is where we're at. He could do some playtime things. And then again, that would also be a potential libel or lawsuit in there as well. You're taking away my playtime because I'm not paying a fine that wasn't outlined in this agreement that I signed between me and the school. So,
yeah. Well, no, he would say
potentially putting himself in some pretty tricky waters here.
Well, no question. He would say I'm taking away your playtime because you missed the meeting. But you're right. I mean, it's still grand tricky. And by the way, if it was Juju, under any circumstance, he can cross his arms and say, I'm not paying that right now, Coach, and it'll probably be okay.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask is what is the recourse to collect the fines? Like, it's easy to go out there and say this.
And where does the money go?
Well, not only where does the money go, but how are you acquiring it? And I don't know if it's the players that get money from the collective, that's likely paid out monthly by month.
I would imagine the fine money would be the revenue share.
Or the revenue shared money, because if Juju's signing, I don't know the number. Let's just pretend he's making $1 million a year, and maybe more than that. Point being, he's signing a contract to play for the Buffs for $1 million. Unless the language about the fines, which you have in your player agreement in the NFL, because again, an employee of Steelers, Seahawks, Patriots, you have that in there. They can fine you based on these, outline points of conduct, right? Just like we understand that. Odds are that his deal is contingent on playing for CU, him or any player, playing for the Buffs. And so I don't know if you get the $1 million all at once or if they get it monthly, but that's a deal they've agreed to. So odds are they're not taking, $2,500 out of Juju's check that he's supposed to be getting in November because he missed the meeting on October 28th.
He just docked his pay. He gets $2,500 less than what he would have.
But I guess if it's coming out of the rev share, they can at least control that.
Yeah.
And so just like that's kind of how NFL player fines work. You don't write a check, Chad, for hitting a guy for $9,800. Your paycheck that was supposed to be $150,000 is now $141,000 or whatever.
Again, I'm suing the hell out of CU. You take money out of my rev share check, and that's not part of the agreement in the contract that I signed. Yeah, you are getting sued, CU again. So I'm with the understanding of, hey, these are paid guys, therefore there needs to be a monetary punishment if they screw up. I just was saying you're putting the cart before the horse. There's no structure there that allows this to happen. It's not in the agreements. And these contracts now are part rev share and part NIL. You're going to get $500,000 from the rev share. You're going to get $250,000 from Adidas. You're going to get $200,000 from Lululemon, and you're going to get $50,000 from Coca-Cola. And that's how these agreements are made. But nowhere in this agreement is a fine structure outlined. What if a coach decides I'm going to fine you $10,000? What if a coach decides I'm going to fine you because you missed a kick or a pass or a tackle? we're in this really stupid place right now where there's no parameters or guidelines around this. And so these things I'm throwing out may seem ridiculous, but now we're at a ridiculous place.
No doubt about it. We are at a ridiculous place, and everything's going to be challenged moving forward. Which again, I think we're on a crash course with organizing and coming up with some sort of. All of this is forcing the hand of college athletics to allow some sort of representation, some sort of organization on behalf of the players. Chad, do you have a total? I know you've been fined because. Do you have a total of what you've been fined over the course of your NFL career, and what might you be able to do with that $350,000 today?
I would say it's over $150,000. Usually, I would say I've only got 2 fines from teams. All the rest were from the league, and they were usually from hidden quarterbacks. You damn overprotected quarterbacks. You hit the quarterback in the head. You left your feet. You launched yourself into the quarterback. Hell yeah, I did. I didn't want that dude to play that game. I had bad intentions. So over 150.
Your own bounty gate.
Yes. I got fined by the Seahawks. They put me in a hotel room where the air conditioning didn't work. So I went to the front desk and bought my own room for the night. Coach Holmgren fined me $5,000 for leaving my room and breaking curfew. I was not very happy about that. And I got fined at the Pittsburgh Steelers for getting in a fight in a preseason game. The NFL fined me, and Coach Cowher fined me for fighting in a preseason game. He told me it was the dumbest thing he's seen me do in my 4 years of being there. It was pretty dumb.
Did you win the fight?
Who'd you have a fight with?
It was an offensive lineman, some rookie from the Philadelphia Eagles, because he pushed me after the play. And for whatever reason, I just decided, well, I've had enough. And I just went at him.
I'm sure the temperature had nothing to do with it. I'm sure it wasn't hot in Pennsylvania on the carpet, whichever game that was.
I think we were in Philly. It was hot. It was muggy. And I thought I shouldn't have even been in the game at that point.
Right.
To have a rookie push me in the back, it just was one more thing that I didn't need. And so I think I came out that game between the 2 fines about $12,000 lighter in the pocket.
Who was the guy that was a left tackle for the Eagles for 12 years? The dude with the enormous head. That's probably who
John
it was.
Ryan?
No, not John Runyon. Not Runyon. After him, the big left tackle that replaced Runyon. Trey
Thomas.
Trey Thomas. Was it Trey Thomas?
Yeah, Trey Thomas. Yes.
Was it Trey Thomas? I wouldn't fight him.
No,
Trey Thomas. It was not Trey Thomas. No, it was some rookie. I don't even know it was. And Trey Thomas.
I was saying Trey Thomas was a rookie at some point.
Hey guys, we talked AFC Championship. We didn't say anything about the NFC Championship.
Chad,
game,
Seahawks, congrats.
Which is fine. Congrats to the Seahawks. I know right now they're the odds-on favor. You guys don't have to do it. I'm going to go ahead and make my prediction right now because I think all things equal, and if nothing else changes between now and kickoff, give me the New England Patriots. Again, you guys don't have to make a prediction.
Oh, yeah, this is a Chad Brown Bowl. He played for both these teams.
I know. I'm curious to hear. Now, Chad, if you want to make a prediction today, you can, or you can wait till next week. But I just want to get it out there right now. There's something about this New England team that I think is destined to bump their head up against success. And this 2 weeks to prepare for this game.
Are they getting way different players on offense?
We will see.
The Pats?
No, Pats will be fine.
Really?
We will see if the quarterback in Seattle is who he's been more recently or who he's been
who we
his
thought he
whole
was.
career.
I'm looking to see what the line is. It was 3.5.
Okay. I'm not
4.5,
going to give my prediction on this one just yet.
4.5 right now.
But I'm favoring the Seahawks because the only question mark about that football team is which Sam Darnold shows up. The best Sam Darnold of his career showed up last week. And so
he was good.
Does Sam late in Minnesota last year show up? Does the Sam Darnold in the 2 previous games against the Rams with 2 turnovers and then 4 turnovers in the first game this year, does that guy show up? That's the biggest question mark about them. The Patriots, I got a hard time seeing that offense beginning to click on all cylinders. I know it's 2 weeks. It's lots of time to prepare. Josh McDaniels is a great play caller. Drake May's an MVP candidate. Mike Vrabel is an excellent head coach. So there's a possibility there. But I think at the very least, the Patriots will do as we saw them do against the Broncos. They'll play great situational football. They'll make the right coaching decisions to keep it a close game, even if their offense doesn't hit previous strides that they did earlier this year. So I'm leaning Seahawks right now. I can certainly make a case why the Patriots will win it, but I'll give my prediction on this show next week.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. What do you want to do?
Yeah, no, I'll give a score prediction next week as well. Right now, I'm simply thinking it's the Seahawks by approximately 1 million, and that may be high because 4.5. But I may, before I fly to San Francisco, because you can't bet legally, I may bet it up over 10.
Okay, so over 10.
Maybe. I know that it's a Super Bowl and sometimes they're close, but I was at a Super Bowl last year that wasn't close at all.
Okay,
and it was in the second half. I was trying to find Leo Messi in his suite to go say what's up, because that's how boring of a game it was, because the Eagles kicked the crap out of the Chiefs.
So I've given my prediction. Next week I'll give the score.
Yeah.
I'm again, unless there's some sort of catastrophic news. That
Drake made the one with the shoulder thanks to Hufanga. Why just slide, dude? Like when he went down like that, when he's running the ball in the second half, I guess it's in the fourth quarter or third quarter. And Hufanga crunches him. I'm like, just slide, protect yourself.
He's trying to win a football.
He's trying to get
hurt.
hurt.
He'll be just fine.
Okay.
Anything else, fellas, before we get out of here, man? You guys have rambled on about fines and all kinds of shit. So anything else you want to ramble on about, Chad, out there in AZ? And by the way, all those fines didn't really impact you too bad as you're in your vacation digs somewhere in a warm region of the country. I love the background, with the sun. That's not, by the way,
it's not green screen. Those are real cacti behind you.
That's real.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. You'll see the cook. Hold on. You'll see the cook walk by. We saw the cook earlier. The butler is coming up next. The show's almost over, so the butler's coming to get him and take him to his country club to get a sauna or something, Chad.
Just to cap the Shedeur Sanders making the Pro Bowl, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Shedeur Sanders, would he have possibly earned his way into the CU Ring of Fame and have his number retired down the road? I'm not saying that should be off the table, but to be given that while he was still freaking on campus, that was ridiculous. And now to be a Pro Bowl when your quarterback rating was 19 or something, you had more interceptions and touchdowns, that's also ridiculous.
Wow, man. Chad, you have never rubbed me to be that kind of guy. Like I look better.
I don't rub you as a truth teller. I don't rub you as you should be given things when you earn them. I don't rub you in that way. I do rub myself that way.
Well, look, man. If you got it, we ain't gonna hate on it. We may not agree with how you got it, but you got it. And here's what I would say: since when? I couldn't even tell you who the hell is in the damn Pro Bowl.
Other than the 6 Broncos.
Other than
and probably Christian McCaffrey.
Who cares about who's in the Pro Bowl? Here's the deal, though. Here's really what the league is saying. Any chance to get anyone to watch this damn game, we better put that guy in it.
Yes, I blame the Manning
brothers.
No,
don't blame anyone. No one to blame.
I mean, they put him in.
Just accept it. That's just good business.
They put him in ahead of Lamar, right? I think they put him in ahead of Lamar.
My guess is Lamar is probably twisting his braids, saying, "Who the hell wants to go to that?"
Lamar's going to turn it down anyway. That's what the Pro Bowl is.
He's going to turn it down.
True.
And Bo Nix was hurt. So
I want you to relax, Chad. Cheer on your fellow Buff.
But here's where it matters. And Hugh Millen brought this up. Me and Big Al had Hugh Millen on the radio when the Broncos made that Russell Wilson trade. And we have Hugh Millen on. And he goes, let's pump the brakes on calling him a 9-time Pro Bowler. He was elected to the Pro Bowl 4 times. 5 times he was an alternate replacement. So his resume says 9-time Pro Bowler. And look, he threw 300 touchdowns.
Was he a 9-time Pro Bowler?
Ultimately, just like Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler in his rookie year. But it matters for legacy more than it matters in the moment. It's easy to poke fun at. But all of a sudden, down the road, when you're talking Hall of Fame candidacy, or was that guy an all-decade player? Well, he went to 6 Pro Bowls. Okay, did he, or did he go to 2 and was an alternate, a league replacement 4 times?
Look, was he a 9-time Pro Bowler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is Shedeur a 1-time Pro Bowler after his rookie year?
Yeah, he and Aaron Donald, the small list.
That's all I'm
Joe
saying,
Thomas.
guys.
Joe Thomas, of course.
Get on my nerves, Chad. You get on my nerves, man. All right, fellas. Appreciate it, man. Good stuff. We'll do it again next week.
See you, fellas.